Okay, guys, I think we're working. Am I here? Okay, and I think we're live here. Hey guys, sorry about the delay there. Every time I think I've got this stupid thing figured out, new features come on. Now that it looks like we're going to be doing this for a while, I'm really trying to add a little bit of sophistication. And despite the many, many times we test these things to make sure everything works great, before we go live, so far I'm batting about 18.75% for failure. So sorry about that. But anyway, yeah, thank you, Scott Jernigan. Glad to be here. Okay, so hopefully everything's working. Anyway, this is a very special edition of the Mike Meyers Ask Mike Anything, and this time we're going to be really concentrating more on smartphone cool tools, as I call them. These are just utilities that I like to use a lot when I'm working with my smart devices in order to get some stuff done. So we should have some time for questions in there, but I want to make sure we understand a few things. Number one, I don't claim expertise on every single one of these tools. Just like a Swiss Army knife, there's going to be toys on there that I may not know how to use. And let me qualify that. I know how to get it to do the stuff I want it to do. But if there's some weird thing I can pull out that's a corkscrew or something, I may not ever use that. So there's almost guaranteed to be things on here that some aspect of a tool I don't know well. And because I don't care. The other thing is that we've only got an hour to work. How much time did we lose there? Almost 10 minutes. We'll run over to make sure that those 10 minutes are covered. But the big deal for right now is that I can't go through these tools in great detail. Don't really want to either. The thing is I want to make sure you guys know the names of these tools and that you understand what they are and how I use them, and then you can decide if you like them or not. Also, not all of these tools are free. Most are. Almost all of them are, actually. But there'll be a few tools that are not free, and in my opinion, it's worth this small amount of money, less than $5, in order to have these particular tools. And finally, the other thing I want to say is that while I have used these tools extensively, all of them these can be dangerous tools. And if you go slapping these on your primary phone that everybody's trying to call you on a day-by-day basis, that's probably not the wisest idea I've ever heard. These tools tend to run great on lower power phones because you're not asking them to do a bunch of other stuff. And so I would strongly recommend that you do these on secondary phones. Now, the other thing is I had so many tools that we're actually going to be looking at tools that do not require you to root the phone. So all the tools we'll be working with today work on regular phones that don't have to be rooted. So that's also a very important thing. And then this is the real last one, is that we spent a week going through iOS, and to be honest with you, the more I learned about iOS, and there's certainly some fine tools that Apple provides for their smart devices. In my opinion, though, is that they're pretty weak compared to what you can do on Android. So with that attitude in mind, we're going to be concentrating exclusively on Android tools. For you iPhone folks, sorry, man, iPhone has some marvelous features to it. And if I had to hand somebody who didn't know smart devices a phone that I knew that I would not have to talk to them very much, it would certainly be an Apple device. Apple has a wonderful interface, but the same controls that allow these interfaces to work well and give it robustness and less risk of malware, things like that, also make it a lot less flexible. And so we're going to be working exclusively with Android devices. Now, I timed this out a couple of times, and I think we can get this all done in an hour. If we can't, we'll just run through tomorrow. Even if we do get it all done in an hour today, I want you guys to know that I'm prepared to have a big Q&A tomorrow on these products. So with that attitude of mind, let's go ahead and dive in. Now, the first thing I want to do before we do anything else is I want to make sure that you guys get this list. So this is all the software we're going to be talking about today. Now, when I'm dealing with this software, I tend to break everything down into 3 groups. Number 1 are what I call device information tools, or tools that will help me get Android devices working better. So that first group are all what I call device information tools. The second group of tools are tools that I call laptop replacements. Sometimes I just don't feel like hauling around a big laptop to check a wireless network, or I want to do a remote desktop, but I don't feel like doing a whole laptop. So that's that second group of tools there. And the third one, and this is where I really do think smart devices really come into play, is that we have a lot of devices that are network scanners. So cellular information, wireless scanners, generic network scanners, packet sniffers, you've got all that as well. Now, the thing I need to warn you about is that there is no tool that you can put on an Android device that will, in my opinion, work as well, as robustly, with as many features as that you would find on something that you could install on a Windows laptop, for example, with a good 802.11 card. So there's always going to be some degree of compromise with this. The goal is convenience here on a lot of these things. And if I'm just trying to find an SSID, or I'm trying to locate a cell tower, or things like that, these tools tend to be just fine. If I'm really trying to do some more aggressive work, I'm probably still going to have to pull my big laptop out with the big fancy 802.11 card in it, with the big antennas, and do the work that I need to do. So, do keep that in mind. Okay, so with that thought in mind, first of all, unfortunately, do you guys know how hard it is to find a web camera for sale anywhere in the United States right now? It is unreal. I mean, absolutely unreal. And I have spent the last week trying to buy webcams all over the place. I'm in Houston, Texas, the 4th largest city in the United States, and I can't find any good webcams. So unfortunately, we're going to have to use good old, you guys may remember this one from our first week, the good old Potato Cam is going to be there one more time with his autofocus functions. Sorry about that. I've got plenty of cameras coming, but the challenge we run into is that it's just hard to actually get them here. The Total Seminar Studio is chock full of amazing cameras, but they're super high-end cameras we use for our professional videos, and I would have to bring the crew in, and that would blow the whole coronavirus stay-at-home attitude. So sorry about that, guys. By the end of the week, we've got new cameras coming in, so bear with me this one time. Okay, so let's go ahead and start diving into this, and let's take a look at some of the cool tools that I use. So first of all, let's start off with CPU-Z. So CPU-Z is a popular tool that we've seen on desktops and laptops for over 10 years. But now we're talking about something that is really exclusively for smart devices. So let's go ahead and take a look at CPU-Z. All right, so CPU-Z has been around for a long, long time. What I particularly like about this tool more than anything else is that it gives us some basic information about our Yeah, we tested this too, kids. Hang on a second. Let me adjust the brightness on this one more time, and hopefully we'll get it right this time. Come on, oh, that's much better. Focus. The moment I walk away, it starts doing better. There we go. All right, so the bottom line is if you need base information about your system, CPU-Z is a great place to turn to. It's going to have, for example, all my system on a chip information. So here I have this is an ARM Cortex A57 processor, which is actually interesting. This is an old Google Nexus 6. This particular phone's been around now for about 6 years. I don't need anything else. Yes, so this is what I call my attack phone. If you've been watching other episodes, you know that I have my regular phone. This is my Google Fold, wow. Did I really say that? Galaxy Fold, and this is not what I'm going to put these types of tools on. This is my secondary phone, it's a Nexus P. Anyway, so it does a really good job if I want to understand some basic functions of the system itself. So if I, exactly what kind of processor I have, that's a handy one. In terms of the device, exactly what brand name I have, how much RAM do I have, how much internal storage do I have. In terms of the system, what Android version. Now again, I can go through my phone and get tons of information like this, absolutely. But the reality is that sometimes it's just convenient to have it all in one shot. I've got battery settings in particular. What's the millivolts on your battery? I don't tend to know those off the top of my head, or the amperage hours. So this is a very, very good tool for that. So it also goes into all the different types of sensors. A lot of times I'll run into a phone that's having troubles, and it's because one or two sensors have died. And if I can do a quick way to test particular sensors, that works out pretty good. So CPU-Z is a pretty darn good tool. So let's go ahead and march on to our next one here. And the next one I want to talk about is the SIM data reader. Being able to read SIM information is really important. Getting things like your IMSI or your IMEI numbers, okay, maybe that's not all on the SIM, but they're related. I can go through and use MMI codes from the phone to take care of stuff like that. Sorry about those beeps. That's my buddy Sandy, who's making way too much noise. Turn down your phone. On the side is a volume rocker. Take it to 0. But I'm lazy. So for me, a lot of times, if I can just use a single tool that allows me to read all my SIM information, I'm going to find that pretty convenient. So let's see if that's going to show up. So this is the SIM data reader. Now keep in mind, guys, there's lots of tools out there like that. I'm not in particular guaranteed to this one, and I want to scroll through here because I know some of you guys are evil, and I don't necessarily want you grabbing my IMSI number. But it does a pretty good job in terms of giving us great information real quick on the type of stuff that I like to be able to grab when I'm taking a look at my phone. And yeah, I could do the, gosh, I forget what it is. *#06#. Now I'm going to have to do it. From your dialer. Yes, Scott Jernigan, all of these tools are available in the Google App Store. None of these are things you have to go to weird places to get. I'm very nervous about doing that. *#06#. Yeah, there we go. Here. You guys ever done that with your dialer? Here. So here's my dialer, right? So I type in *#06#, and it gives me all that information. By the way, guys, you can do this on your phone if you want to. There's a bunch of codes that allow you to do stuff like that, but it's just a matter of convenience, and I love using SIM tools to help me out with stuff like that. All right, what's next on the list here? Device sensor, or the Multitool. I love this tool. This is actually kind of a fun tool, and this particular tool does better in terms of giving me information on my system than just about anything else that's out there. So bring the potato sensor up here. So I can use this. Man, that is coming off terrible, isn't it, kids? Sorry about that, guys. I swear this camera's gonna, we're gonna have like an official burial for this camera as soon as the new cameras come in. But in terms of like pressure sensors, proximity sensors, gyroscopes, I mean pretty much everything you've got in terms of sensors on an Android device, this can test it for you. If you're having problems like, I like to use the Google Squeeze to Talk function. It's not working, this is a place I'm going to check. It'll check button functions. It does everything for you in one easy shot. So if people are telling me that something isn't working right, I'm usually going to throw that on there just to make sure that all the sensors are working in a proper fashion. So it works out really, really well for me. Okay, the next one is file managers. File managers are so impossibly important on Androids. Here, I'll give you one great example right away. You want to use your own ringtones and you don't want to pay somebody $5 to copy something into the correct folder for you, then using file managers is a very, very powerful tool. File managers come with all kinds of stuff like eBooks/PDF readers. They come in with vaults. If you have a certain number of photos of, like I keep my driver's license on my phone, but I don't want anybody to find that, I can actually use different types of file managers to hide those into protected vaults so that nobody can have access to that. I keep VIN numbers for my phone, stuff like that. VIN numbers for my car in my phone. So file managers just do all kinds of stuff. To be able to look at caching directly in terms of what's really filling up a particular device, to be able to look at individual installed software. They're very, very powerful tools. Everybody should have a file manager. At the very least, you know why you have a file manager? Because you have a ton of pictures, and whatever your default photo app is, you don't want to sit there and hit a checkbox on every one of them. You just want to select them all and drag it over to your laptop or something like that. File managers are extremely powerful tools. All right. So that pretty much covers, oh, and by the way, I don't have a particular file manager that I'm going to recommend to you. I don't know any that are evil. There are probably 150 of them on there, and they all seem to work pretty good. I even did some research, and you know, the one I seem to like the best is just generically known as File Managers. It's one of the older ones, and I like it. Okay, so these are the tools that I tend to use to deal with problems that I run to on my individual devices. I have not looked at anybody's. Let's get the software list back up. We'll talk about laptop replacements. Homer 1075, does Android use containers? Everything it is a container. It's all one big container. Yeah, Nigel's evil. Do you mean downloading? We're going to talk about, we're going to be talking about VPN in a moment. And Scott Jernigan, thank you for helping out with all that stuff there, brother. I'm going through. Man, I'm sitting here talking. It looks like we got all kinds of trouble. Do I have to spank people? Hi, Elaine. Good to see you're here. I'm just reading through. Is anybody, before I start the next big chunk of stuff to cover? Scott Jernigan, iPhone is the best. Ah, good Lord. All right, so let's go ahead and yeah, guys, be good. Come on, I don't have a problem with talking about VPNing, but let's all be good. Okay, so let's get back to this then. All right, so anyway, so the next thing I want to talk about are the laptop replacement tools. These are tools that I would normally turn to a laptop or in some cases a desktop because that's traditionally where these tools are sitting. So these are types of tools I can use now on my individual phones. Now I got to keep in mind here, guys, every one of these tools I'm about to show you, I don't have turned on very much for very good reasons. And that is, in order for me to turn these different things on, I would have to expose internal IP addresses and all kinds of other stuff that, no offense to you guys, but I don't want bad actors having a shot at some of my more private things. So I'm going to kind of give you an overview of what they do and how they work, but in general, you're going to have to load them up and try them for yourself. So let's head back to the potato cam here. And this entire row. So we're going to start with Termux. Termux is a wonderful little tool that gives me an old school, regular old terminal. I don't need a terminal very often on an Android device, but when I do, it's usually something ugly and scary, and I'm on technical support with somebody who actually knows what they're doing, and they start saying things like, and this comes up a lot on Androids, and they're like, okay, so can you bring up a terminal on your Android? And the answer is with good third-party terminal tools, you absolutely can. So Termux works beautifully. Now keep in mind, you're not going to have super user on here. That would require rooting, which would be a whole separate conversation, which I'm not even sure I want to get into with this gang of you pack of thieves, you evil guys. But it is an incredibly convenient tool, especially if you're comfortable with basic command line stuff, Linux command lines, to be able to even do something simple like deleting caches and stuff like that. Wonderfully convenient tool. And there's a lot of them out there. I like Termux the best, but just if you need a command line. Oh, by the way, try to do that on your iPhone. Not going to happen. All right, so what's next on the list here? Okay, oh, remote desktop. I love remote desktop. Now, when I'm talking about remote desktop, because I'm such a Windows person, I'm usually talking about connecting to a Windows remote desktop. There are other remoting tools. VLC is certainly available on Android, but really what I'm talking about is connecting to a Windows system. And Microsoft makes an absolutely superb product, and they call it simply Remote Desktop Client. Now this is intentionally turned off because I don't want you guys doing anything evil. The potato cam's keeping everything out of focus anyway, but I can preset, as long as I have different remote devices that are set to accept incoming connections, this client works beautifully. The cool part about the remote desktop is that you forget how wonderful resolutions most of our Android phones have. And you can pretty much see the entire thing. It even emulates the mouse, which is hilarious because I can drag my finger and the little mouse arrow shows up and it works beautifully. So if I need to make a quick and dirty connection, tell you what saves me more often than not is I need access to a printer. I need to be able to print something off at the house or at the office, and then later I'll come there, I'll have somebody grab it or send it to me. It can be a wonderfully convenient tool for that. Sure, now if I'm on my desktop system, I can usually just go ahead and VPN in and make a nice connection like that. But I always like, I use remote desktop, for example, if I need to configure a server. Now you can't get to any of my servers through this because Michael Smyer has made darn good and sure that that particular feature is turned off. But it's wonderfully convenient, and it will manifest the entire Windows desktop. It depends on the resolution of your smart device, of course, but it does a really good job. And I use it a little bit. I use it some. What's next here? Oh, FTP tools. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I almost didn't add an FTP tool. It's just not something I'm using as much as I used to, but it's still out there. And if you have an FTP server you want to drag something down from, those tools are out there. The tool that I'm running to more than anything else these days is going to be AndFTP. And it's just a simple get in focus. There we go. And it's just a simple FTP client. It's actually not very exciting. Type in the URL for an FTP. If you have a username and password, it'll prompt for it. You type it in, and you basically get the typical FTP tree structure, so you can download whatever you want to do searching, that type of stuff. It supports passive and active FTP. Works great. Kind of boring, but when you need to do FTP and you don't have a laptop around, you can absolutely do that from a smartphone. Now, more useful is going to be SSH. So there's a lot of SSH tools that are available for the Android. I like to use Juice SSH. Just, I don't know, it's pretty. That's about the only good reason I have for it. I'm always SSHing into stuff. For me, if I have remote devices that I turn off HTTP and HTTPS, you would be shocked how many people that stops, at least in terms of the script kiddies and things like that. But with SSH, especially a good robust SSH, I can access my devices and I get a proper command line to do whatever I need to do. Now don't confuse this with terminal, right? Terminal is a local local command line. This is more for doing stuff when you want to connect to cameras, for example. I do that kind of stuff quite a bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at that fella. So this white blob, and I'm really sorry, guys. You guys should keep a copy of this because you all say, man, I remember Mike's early web streams when they stunk because he used this crappy old camera. Anyway, so Juice SSH works really nice. I mean, there's nothing special about it. I mean, other than it'll keep copies of stuff you've logged in before. It'll hold your username and password so you can SSH into stuff more often. It works great. It has some kind of interesting plugins if you want to use stuff like that. But it is just, again, remember, keep in mind, all the tools we're talking about here are really tools that I don't want to haul my laptop around, and they'll do a great job. So Juice SSH is my current favorite. All right, so here's the one I know that you guys are all going to want to talk about, and that's VPNs. So let's make sure we understand what we're talking about here first of all. There's two very different kinds of VPNs out there. One type of VPN is going to be a classic forward-looking VPN, and that is, it's a VPN client that allows you, for example, to connect to my office. And lots of tools are out there for smart devices, OpenVPN. They're all out there in one form or another, and they do a great job with that. The other kind, and this is the most evil you're ever going to get to hear Mike Meyers talk about, and that is what we call a reverse VPN. And when I say a reverse VPN, that means I am hiding myself from the server I'm trying to get to. And there are a lot of good reverse VPNs out there. Right now, my absolute favorite is going to be the HotShot ShieldFree VPN. Now, I need to warn you about this particular tool. If you just install it and don't pay careful attention to the screen, you're going to be buying yourself this product, which is a good product. Honestly, you'd probably want to buy it eventually anyway. A lot of things I like about HotShot, for example, it has a huge number of servers out there that can spread you out all over the place, which is really convenient when you're talking about, look, the main reason most of us use VPNs is we want to hide ourselves to some small extent, or we want to have some kind of regionality. We want to pop up in England or in Albania or whatever it might be. And HotShot does an absolutely amazing job for a free product. If I was going to be using a pay product, and I do, I would almost certainly be going with NordVPN. Terrence Tech, FTP tools are great if you're a web developer. To some extent. SFTP. I've never actually tried to use SFTP on that tool. I don't know. I'll bet it does, but I've never looked. Okay, but actually I apologize. Never really checked. There's a classic example where I don't have complete expertise on every single one of these products. But if I was going to be buying a VPN, I'd be going with NordVPN. They've been around for a while. They're super robust. Oh, Jacob, there's a ton of VPNs. These are the ones I like. That's all I'm telling you. That's why I call them my cool tools. And they're good tools. Be careful with VPNs, guys. A lot of us think, oh, I can be all sneaky with them. Trust me, I work with law enforcement at the federal and state level. They can find you. If you become interesting enough to them, you're in trouble. So, just don't break the rules, guys, and then you're in good shape. All right. So the last group of software I want to talk about are what I call network scanners. These are the types of tools that I like to use. Nord's been compromised a bazillion times. They've all been compromised. Is what I call network scanners. So network scanners are just devices I use to go out and look at the network. If I want to look at particularly wireless and cellular and Bluetooth are my big interest, but there's even packet capture and more generic scanners as well. So what I want to do is make sure we understand why I use tools like this. If I've got a network scanner, a wireless network scanner, I'm usually looking for hotspots, I'm looking for relative strength of the hotspots. I want to see, are there other convenient hotspots that have a close DBM to what I'm looking at? Now, would these things show up in my client? Probably they'd show up in my client to some extent, but I like a more controlled number. So there's really two different things we're looking at. Number one, where are the wireless networks and who is strong? And then once I've got a wireless network, what's going on within that wireless network? So let's go ahead and start off with probably my absolute favorite tool. Come on, Potato Cam. Is just Wi-Fi Analyzer. This is an old program. It's been around for a long time, and it does a great job in terms of just giving me a quick and dirty peek as to what's going on my network. So right now it's popping up. This is 2.4G. I can hit this again, and then this is the, here, 5G band is a big band. So it can go through and show me everything within the 5G band. People forget how important these things are today. In particular, especially when you're taking a look at some of the late generation 2.4 gigahertz stuff, the way they deal with channel width, the congestion on the classic 1, 6, and 11 channels can make a lower power channel often more attractive than you might think. And especially for those of us who are still trying to battle within the 2.4 gigahertz range, to be able to kind of split the difference sometimes, all of a sudden you'll see a lower power 3 or 4, but nobody else is around it, can often speed things up a lot for those of us still running on that particular range. Now on the 5 gigahertz range, 5 gigahertz isn't that old relative to 2.4 certainly. And we're not seeing a ton of congestion yet sometimes. And we're also starting to see a lot of devices, especially when you look at 802.11n and AC, where channel shuffling is not that big of a problem for them. So that can make things a lot easier in terms of that setup. But you'll still run into it. Let's take a look one more time at this. So if I go back over, so you're going to see I got a ton of stuff on the low end range. Look up here. So I got the low end, and this is just how this tool splits it up. Low end, medium, and then high end. There's absolutely nothing in the middle. I would be very tempted to maybe throw something in the middle and just tell it to go with a manual channel configuration instead of automated. So that's really where stuff like that really comes into play. Wi-Fi Analyzer, again, it's been around forever. I'm surprised you guys, I would be surprised a lot of guys are already aware of it, and I love it. It's on all my phones. It's even on my regular phone. All right, what's next we want to take a look at? All right, so network scanner, Geeky iTools. I almost didn't put this on here. This is the most dangerous tool that I'm going to show you guys today. Geeky iTools is a classic wireless scanner in terms of finding individual hosts on a wireless network and then querying them, for example, on well-known ports and stuff like that. Now, we've had tools like that on wired networks forever. We've had tools like Kali Linux-based tools where you're hauling a laptop around or something like that. We've had those tools forever. But we haven't had a lot of good tools on smart devices, in particular Android. I will tell you this, I can't even turn this tool on in my network. If I do, it will shut down the stream. I've got so much IPS on my home network here that turning this thing on and letting it go do its due will send the router into a frizzy and shut off my internet. So, you've been warned. Very, very powerful tool, good for discovering individual hosts within your local area network, within your particular SSID, good for querying well-known ports and lesser-known ports on individual devices. We've seen, anybody who's taken my Network Plus, have seen plenty of tools like this in a more wired environment. If you've taken Security Plus, you've seen tools like this in a wireless environment. But Geeky Tools is very powerful, very dangerous. Use it at your own risk. I'd recommend play with it, set up your own little test network, set up a WAP, get a couple other people connect to it, give it a try, and then see how it works. Yeah, it is so powerful. When I was doing the research to come up with a cute lab for this, yeah, knock down the entire network more than once. So, are we properly warned? Yes? Okay. All right. All right. Well, wait. All right. So, before we go any further, first of all, I want to let you guys know that just because you were kind enough to show up on my channel today, you are all getting 50% off of all my practice questions and all of my simulations on the TotalSim.com website. So all you have to do is use the code that we're going to be showing. And yeah, it's kind of like, Homer 1070. It's kind of like Nmap. It has a lot of Nmappy fools. Terrence Tech, are these tools included by default? Oh, no. None of these tools are included, dude. You got to dig for them. I mean, they're on the store, so you can find them that way. But no, no, they're not by default. Sorry. Besides, Android isn't Linux, right? Does Wi-Fi Analyzer show connected devices? No, you'd have to use other tools to do that. Okay, so what else we got here? Oh yeah, the other thing I really want to mention, and so this is kind of a big deal. If you're an instructor, you need to listen real close. Here at Total Seminars, if you're an instructor teaching an active course right now, we will basically give you the whole world for free. This coronavirus is a hassle for everybody. We're battling to get around this stuff, and we want to help. And in fact, if you're an instructor of an active class, we will give you the tools you need for that course. In some very pain in the rear end situations, we can even provide free eBooks. It's tricky to do that. You're going to have to contact Kathy Yale of our office. Her email is going to show up there in the feed here shortly. Homer 1075, IPS before or after your firewall. IPS is in my firewall. So I kind of got them all together. And Brandon Swenson's being funny. BlackBerry, yeah, cute, okay. So anyway, the important thing is, I got to tell you, if I was an instructor right now, even if I was an instructor, you guys need to be certainly look at me for A+, Net+, Security+, but there are so many companies out there. CompTIA has given some fairly good stuff away, but more importantly, if you want to look towards CCNA training or all kinds of, I'm not even going to name names. There's so many out there. Cybrary IT is giving stuff away. There are a lot of people, and these are not just for instructors. Some of them are for instructors, some aren't. Man, but if I was studying anything right now, I'd be going from provider to everybody and just checking and say, hey, what do you got for free? Because, I mean, people are really trying to help. And this is an opportunity of a lifetime for you to grab more free swag than you could ever possibly wrap your head around. On top of that, even CompTIA is offering some pretty flexible attitude on what do you call it when you have CWE, hang on, it's going to come back to me in a minute. Instead of having to retest, you can get CEs, and CompTIA is really bent over backwards, and you should check out CompTIA. I don't quite think that I can qualify for a CE with this. I'm going to start working with CompTIA that maybe in the hopefully very near future, I should sleep at night, we might be able to continue in education. Good Lord, I knew it would come out eventually. That we might even be able to provide that with these types of courses. So if you want to re-up for an A+ or something like that, I haven't made any contacts to CompTIA yet, but we're going to try. So there's some really great opportunities out there. A lot of people really wanting to help y'all, and take advantage of it. Why not? Just absolutely amazing. Okay. All right. Next one I use all the time is for cellular information. This is called Network Cell Info Lite. I live in the middle of Houston, Texas, and we have absolutely amazing internet connectivity here. But if you get out into the suburbs, you get out in the country, trying to connect, I don't know, I apologize, I'm so yawny today. Trying to connect and figure out where stuff is can sometimes be a challenge. So that's why I turn to Network Cell Info Lite. Takes him a minute to load up. So this tool goes through, oh no, it's powering off on me again. Well, at least he timed that right. This poor guy has been working so hard, I've ran out of juice. Network Cell Info Lite is an amazing tool that helps you find local cell towers. It lets you know who's providing what services on that tower. For example, especially for people like me who use things like Google Fi and Ting, you will never see me using AT&T or T-Mobile or any of that stuff anymore. Sometimes it will surprise me who I connect to because I can see a tower like right here, and all of a sudden it's like I'm not connecting to it. I pull this up, and it's because it doesn't have a Ting service or something like that. Also, sometimes you can find yourself connecting to strange towers. In particular, if somebody's doing something naughty, that always makes me a little nervous. I know the areas I'm in, and if a bizarre tower magically appears, it literally puts a map out and says, well, here's the tower. And more than once, I've gotten in a car and drove over, and mysterious white vans with weird antennas sticking out of them were working. So I won't go into any more detail than that, but probably somebody, hopefully with a badge, is doing stuff, and they're trying to find bad guys. But it can be a very, very powerful tool in terms of understanding what's out there, who you can connect to. You cannot change your connection with this device. I know it'd be nice if it did, but unfortunately you can't. But at least in terms of a search tool, it is absolutely amazing. All right, so let's talk about the last one, and that's going to be Packet Sniffer Capture. Who doesn't love Wireshark? I mean, we live on that stuff. It's absolutely amazing. And getting a lot of people coming in my front door here. So Wireshark does a great job in terms of what it can do for us. The problem with Wireshark is that Wireshark really is a desktop/laptop tool, and Wireshark in and of itself is almost non-functional on wireless networks, certainly out of the box. In order to use packet sniffers on a wireless network, you're going to have to jump to some extra hoops. Probably you're going to have to get special wireless network cards, and that's a whole other story to get into, which you could probably talk me in. You might be able to talk me into something like that. But to be able to do a kind of a simple, quick, and dirty packet capture, in particular, what's going on between your phone and your wireless access point, this is an absolutely amazing tool. Yeah. The old phone's dead. Sorry about that. I just charged it. That's what's wrong with old phones. I need to put a new battery in there. It manifests sort of differently than what you'd expect, like with Wireshark. I'm gambling a lot of you guys have used Wireshark. It's that it'll load individual packets, but instead of how Wireshark makes it like a nice little table, this one actually tries to do a descriptor on individual packets. But what it does have that's very nice is it has all the sorting and filtering. If I want to get DHCP, if I want to get DNS, if I want to sit here and track things like HTTPS, I can. It doesn't have a lot of the extra features like what you'd expect with a full-blown Wireshark. Wireshark, I can actually plug in a certificate and decode things. With Wireshark, I can do a follow TCP stream, and I can look at unencoded data right out of Wireshark. You're not going to get any of those features. But a lot of times, if I'm trying to connect to a router that's giving me trouble and I can't figure out why it won't connect, I can ping the router, but I can't get up to the configuration screen. A lot of times that can be a very convenient little tool to fire that up to see, am I even getting a proper TLS handshake, things like that. And it works absolutely beautifully for that kind of stuff. If you're not comfortable with Wireshark, you are definitely not going to be comfortable with this tool. That is, between the Geeky iTools and this one, those are the last two I'd like you to probably try to use. I'm not going to say the last one's dangerous, but I will tell you is that it can be a hard tool to use to the uninitiated. If you haven't taken Network Plus with me, or with anybody, using either of those tools is probably a complete waste of time. These are not novice tools. It assumes you know port numbers. It assumes you know IP addresses. It assumes that you know protocols. And if you don't know that stuff, it's going to hand you a bunch of information that you can do absolutely nothing with. So it's important to understand that you really want to have some comfort with these tools. This brings up another important point on any technical tool, and it's certainly not cool tools just for smartphones, but for even on my desktop and laptop, is that you can't just go out into the world and start grabbing people's data willy-nilly. Well, let's assume that you're doing it in a legal way, okay? But there is no handy tool that babysits you through this. The more powerful the tool, the higher the level of assumed knowledge of the person using it. That's why I always laugh at people who say, I'm going to grab a copy of Kali Linux and put it on my Raspberry Pi and start hacking or whatever. You're not going to do anything. Without the skill set to understand the functions of what these things do, you're wasting your time. And that's one of the reasons I do like Security Plus. It actually goes into some of the better known security suites and actually makes you learn some of that stuff. All right, well, that is all. Man, we made it in an hour. Look at us. Probably not enough time to answer all the questions, but at least we can give it a try. So this is my set of cool tools. Here, let me put this back up on the screen one more time. Keep in mind, we leave these videos up, so you can always come back here to the Total Seminars channel and take a look at these for yourself, and just pause the screen and figure out what you want to try, what you don't want to try. Because the choice is really up to you in terms of the types of tools you use. The other big thing, and I want to put this out to you guys, is that I don't see anything else to do with tools on a smart device other than the three big areas I described. If you've got something else, I'd like to hear about it. But to me, those are the three big reasons that we would use it. And a couple of other things came up with the brain trust here at Total Seminars, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm very, very curious to hear what you guys have to say about that. All right, so we got 5 minutes. Let's see if I can sneak in some questions here. You guys are so good about answering your own questions that sometimes Sorry, Nigel. I'm your Nigel. Mike, I already have all your courses and currently studying for CCNA. Can I get another present instead? Sorry, buddy. I do what I do, so that's about it. No CCNA. I just found that CompTIA has an app with questions. I mean, there's a lot of people who have Android apps that do flashcards and things like that. CompTIA is one. I had one once. I don't know if I still have it. We didn't do it. We just pay somebody else to do it. Hello, it's true that certifications can be done at home. Dalbin Ramos. Yeah, it looks like it is, Dalbin. We're going to find out. We're going to get a big talk tomorrow, and we're going to speak with CompTIA and find out what the details are going to be. And then it should happen on the 15th, but we don't have any super great details right there. But CEC, sorry Homer, don't do CEC. Yes, CEs, thank you. Boy, I really just kind of brain farted right there, didn't I? Thank you, Terrence Tech. Yeah, we'll see what we can do about those CEs. I know I'm just giving all my Total Seminars people a panic by saying that, but we'll see. Yeah, Paul, we really played with some of the Apple tools, and I mean, for like checking out wireless networks, they're okay, but nothing blew me away. I was very disappointed. And I was being shown stuff by people who really know Apple, so there you go. Yanni Noir, thanks, you're welcome. Moses Park, if MAC address filtering is not secure, what would be an option to have a secure filtering system? Well, do you mean firewalling? There's 1,000 options, right? In terms of firewall, you can filter. Oh, you mean like MAC address filtering for a wireless network? Is that what you're talking about, dude? I got to tell you, you want to do, the best thing you can do is put long, complicated passwords in your WPA2. Well, at least until WPA3 comes along. I can crack most wireless networks. Got to be careful with that. But the hard one for me to crack is if you have really long passwords. Then most of my rainbow tables are just not going to be able to handle that kind of stuff. And I'll move on to somebody easier than you. Or I'm going to try to come in on a sneaky place from the side. But yeah, I know it seems strange that CompTIA really pushes that. On A Plus and Net Plus, there are known questions that talk about MAC address filtering as like the greatest thing ever. I have never used MAC address filtering in a production wireless network ever. Never once. And I think that speaks volumes right there. There's so many better ways to do it. Put in a good password, more than anything else. Joe Sosa, you've made a big choice there. Go for it, buddy. Paul Murphy, so to use wireless with a wireless laptop, you need a special piece of hardware? Well, the problem you need is you need Wireshark itself is just a packet analyzer, right? But it comes with a packet capturing tool. So I think it's called PCAP. WinPCAP. And the problems you have with Wireshark isn't the analysis, it's the capturing function. It's actually surprisingly hard to find well-documented wireless network cards that allow for capturing. And there are some tools out there. But to be honest with you, if you're getting that serious about it, you really need to stop thinking about a Windows-based environment and move to a more Linux-based environment where some of the best tools are. Some of them even come with Kali to do that stuff. Oop, bunch of scrolling. Hang on. Yeah, I know it's 3 o'clock, but I know I started late, so I'm going to keep going here a little bit. Everybody's doing all their own answering here, which is good. I'm glad to see that. Paul Murphy, you need to understand Wireshark, man. You need to get a copy of it. I do an entire video in Network Plus on Wireshark. You should grab that, man. It's pretty amazing. Do phones support monitor mode? Monitor mode. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to talk about monitor mode. I'm not sure what you mean there. What do I think of Keith Barker? I subscribe to his channel. Great stuff. Jacob Tabaris, Professor Meyers. I am not a professor. My name's Mike. If a tree falls in the forest, oh, good Lord. Okay. Your CYSA mentioned using the phone to pen test. Great idea. How do you get, Jenna Griffin, how do you get experience when studying for the A+? You volunteer. You volunteer at a church. You volunteer at a school. You volunteer at some charitable organization. You volunteer someplace. And most volunteer organizations are going to say no a couple of times. You find mom and pop computer companies and you say things like, I'll work for free. Of course, they're not going to let you work for free, but if you get in there and hustle a little bit, they will let you in. It is easy to get experience. Your friends, your family, your barber, your plumbers, they all need some help. And if you're willing to take a look at it, that will always give you real experience that you can put on a resume. Yes, Terrence, these apps allow you to put it into promiscuous mode. Yeah, I live on the internet. What can I help it? So yeah, guys, keep in mind, there's a whole other class of Android tools that I'm not going to cover in here that require rooted phones and can do some very, very powerful stuff, but I would need a much more serious-minded audience. And you guys need to concentrate right now, getting your A+, your Net+, your Security+, getting some of those base skills together, and before you start, I'm going to be a hacker. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, definitely build a computer. Jenna, don't listen to these dangerous guys. They're going to tell you to dismantle the computer at your desk, and you're going to be sad. Terrence Tech. No, Terrence, I do not do Cisco. been thinking about it, but to be honest right now, trying to keep high quality CompTIA A+, Net Plus, and Security Plus is a full-time job for me, and so I tend to be sticking right there. So that's all I got. All right, well guys, I'm sorry we started off a little late. Again, we're trying some new things here, and we always do our best to try to come up with fun stuff. We will only keep getting better and better. We're definitely going to be doing anti-malware. I'm probably going to save that for next Monday, just because we've ended up getting a lot more research on that than we wanted to. Keep in mind, Friday's our big giveaway day, so we'll always be giving stuff away. I will be open for answering lots of questions starting tomorrow on any of these tools. Please don't go installing these tools without some understanding what they do. I have tried to give you all the caveats that I can, but as good techs, we have to be very careful about what we do and how we do it. So be careful out there. All right, guys, so that's all I've got for today. Listen, thank you so much for showing up. Don't forget that we have half off all of our practice questions and all of our simulations on CompTIA. If you are an instructor, right now I'm not saying it's a great time to be an instructor, but it's a great time to get free stuff. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time, right here. Till then, bye-bye.